Jack, so let's reset really quickly about this for the audience that isn't aware of this. Why this is such a big deal? Because I'm not even the type of guy to follow what I would call local events in this level of detail. But it's not a local event, is it? It is an event that has global ramifications.
It most definitely will have global ramifications. I mean, the Yangtze River Valley provides about 25 to 40% of the Chinese food. It also provides 80% of all pharmaceuticals, 80% of all chemicals produced in China are along this valley. And we cannot state how devastating these floods are to China right now. We'll throw up some B-roll of the animals, Vish, if you will, just to give people an idea of how this is impacting livestock, how this is impacting agriculture. One of the interesting things is that there's a huge blackout right now inside China concerning the news. And there's certainly been some various kinds of data that they're pushing out that doesn't seem to make any sense. For example, the flow up by Chongqing, which is well west of the Three Gorges Dam, they have that right now at 66,000 cubic meters per second. So that's the equivalent of enough water to fill the Capitol Dome twice every second. Now, down at the Three Gorges Dam, they say that the water flow is less than that. But right now, they are releasing from the Three Gorges Dam almost 48,000 cubic meters per second. Now, if we remember, about 10 days ago, they claimed that they released 35 to 40, and that created massive flooding downstream. What we're going to see probably today is that Chongqing is going to overflow its banks at the city. This is really sad for the Chinese people. I'm very concerned for them. And what the Chinese government came out yesterday, Raheem, this is very interesting. They sort of described what was necessary on the part of the dam operators, because there's multiple dams on the tributaries leading into the Yangtze River. So they're getting almost as much as 15 inches of rain potentially on the western end of the drainage for the Yangtze River. So above Chongqing, above the Three Gorges Dam. And they've asked all the dam operators that they have to basically have a delicate balance. They're announcing this to save people downriver. They've told people in Sichuan province, anybody living on the first floor has to move to the second and or third floor because of potential emergency flooding. Now, the reason why this is emergency flooding, Raheem, is because in order to save Wuhan, in order to save Chongqing, they have to release this water into flood zones. Most of these flood zones end up being secondary cities and really agricultural areas, and these people are getting flooded out. Now, when we talk about the food consequences of this, I think there were some really big tells today that came out in China. For example, China even announced, this is their official government said, that China faces a grain supply gap by 2020 of 130 million tons of grain. This is not inconsequential, people, and now they're claiming that it's all partially because of the fact that rural people are moving to the cities, they don't have enough labor, etc. But what I've always told you, China cannot feed itself, and China's inability to feed itself is going to become more acute as time goes on, especially in the near term as we watch this devastation along the Yangtze River. So what does this mean for us? I think this means that the Chinese Communist Party is in a very dangerous position. I think that there are many people in the countryside of China who are feeling betrayed right now. I think if we look back at the floods in 1998, it took 3 months for that water to recede from these rural areas. I think that we're going to have not just famine. I think that we're going to have some problems with communicable diseases that come out of things like this, potentially cholera and other things. We ran some B-roll earlier of hundreds and hundreds of dead animals. One thing else that I think people should think about, the Chinese government is still claiming, Raheem, that only 161 people have been killed or missing in this entire thing. Now,
are they claiming that 161 people have been reported killed or missing, or
reported killed or missing?
Right.
So they are playing this thing very close to the vest. I think what is very much a tell for our Western audience, and I do this all day long, go and check the Google News on flooding in China. There is nothing there. And really, this is a shout out to our Western media, Raheem, because they're not covering it either.
Right.
I can understand Chinese media trying to avoid it, but why about the New York Times and the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times? This is something that needs to be talked about.
Well, in the sense that there are even any, or rather many Western reporters left in China to cover this stuff. I mean, a lot of people have been kicked out, and the ones that have been kicked out, you would imagine will still have source networks, even if they're not in the country, would have source networks in the country, and then they wouldn't have the Damoclean sword of the CCP hanging over their necks in the sense that they couldn't further then kick them out. So you wonder why this reporting isn't happening at all from local centers, even from places as like the Australia bureaus and things like that could cover this stuff.
Well, like for example, they're saying that anybody in China who puts video of the floods on WeChat, etc., they're coming after you and they're taking down those videos. They do not want people to see this. The other thing that's very interesting is that they seem to be changing the data on the flow rates above the Three Gorges Dam, even the level at the Three Gorges Dam. There was a live stream that was playing for a long time of the Three Gorges Dam. That's been off for the last 10 hours, or it's been like a static screen, right, with no movement on it. So I really think that we need to pay attention to this. I really think that we need to say a prayer for the Chinese people, but this may be the straw that breaks the camel's back here.